Today I'm going to do a simple exercise that is going to be key, and I hope it gives you the aha moment it did for me in realizing what's important in life. So we're going to start by building a timeline. This timeline is your life. I'm going to start at t equals 0, and I'm going to go to t equals 77. Now that is because the typical life expectancy of a human is 77 years old. Now right now I'm going to plot my time, and I want you to do the same with me. I'm 38.5. Funny enough, I did not plan this, but that is the midpoint of the average life expectancy. 38.5 years old and I'm midlife. Wow. Now in this timeline of a typical life, we're going to start with identifying our knowns. What are our knowns in this timeline? We know the conditions at time 0. We only know the conditions at this very moment. The past is simply a construct that we've associated meaning to, and the future is unknown. We can plan, but ultimately all we really have is this very instantaneous snapshot of a moment in time. That in itself is very important when you look at your life, because when I start to graph, I'm going to look at time 0, and I'm going to look at time equals 77 years. I'm going to also look at my state. Happy is above the 0 line on the y-axis, and sad is below the 0 line on the y-axis. Sad and happy. This is our emotions over time graph. I know right now that I can graph my emotional state at this very moment when I'm at 38.5 years of age, and I'll say I'm relatively happy. Well, how can we look at this graph to give us some insight into our life? Well, we can use our mathematical principles. We know right now our condition at this very moment. Now, as I approach and I flow through time in my next moment, I'm still feeling pretty good. So I can start to graph my emotional state. Now, yesterday was a rough day. I was a little sad, so I put myself on the lower quadrant there. Now, all we know in life is this very moment. If we were to look at ourselves as one big equation, it would be the summation of the moments over time. Now, if I were to graph this, when you take a summation over time, you get the area under the curve, and that is an integral from t equals 0 to t equals 77, the moments over time. Now, folks, I find that very powerful, because it means that all we have is this very moment, and we have a choice in this moment. We can choose to be happy, or we can choose to be sad. That will determine our state over time. When we continue to be happy, we continue to build that positive momentum, we continue to have positive areas over this curve, and when we sum up those moments, that goes into the bucket of positivity, and that's going to help us overall to have a good life. Now, it's inevitable we're going to have areas under the curve where there's negative moments, and that's okay. That takes away from our positivity and our overall look at life. But you have to look at this in terms of moments, because that is all we have. That's the only known that we have in this life. Now, taking that a step further, we don't measure time emotionally in terms of, oh, that's in 5 minutes, that's 4 minutes ago, I felt happy 10 minutes ago. We measure it in meaning. When was the last time you fell in love? How did that feel? When were you grieving? How did that feel? Those are what we measure time from. Time is not measured in moments. It's measured in meaning. Now we're going to look at this timeline again in a whole nother perspective. We're going to look at the timeline in terms of meaning. Humans don't measure moments in terms of time. They measure them in terms of meaning. To me, this was a very freeing concept because it allows you to look at the spectrum of your life and really deep dive into what gives you meaning, what's given you meaning in the past, and how you can continue to have meaning in the future. What defines a moment of meaning in your life? For me, a big part of that is love. Statistically speaking, you're gonna fall in love, I'll put these as hearts, on average 3 times in your life. 3 times, folks. The likelihood that you're gonna even run into a person on this earth based on the square footage of the earth is 1 in 1.6 trillion possibility, because the landmass on earth is 1.6 trillion feet squared. The likelihood you're gonna encounter your significant other and be in the same space is 1 in 1.6 trillion square footage wise. That to me is pretty flippin' significant. So 3 times approximately in this timeline, you're gonna fall in love. Unfortunately, statistics show that you're gonna grieve losses of things in your life. And the average woman will grieve in 77 years 14 times. Wow. Reality of life is you're gonna have to get used to the grieving process. You're gonna have to find ways to cope. You're gonna have to be momentarily in that moment in time and really feel your emotions as you grieve. These are all just knowns in your life. So we have love, we have grief. What else do we have that really gives us meaning in life is our time with our family. So when I look at family time, I'm gonna wipe this clean and I'm gonna come back in a moment because this will really change your perspective if you give meaning to family time like I do. Now, one of those things that gives me a lot of meaning is spending time with family. Now, I urge you, if you have a lot of meaning in that space, to do this exercise with me. Look at where your life is right now, and let's take someone in your life and graph their life against yours. So my mom, she is right now, as I'm 38.5, she's 66. 66 to 77, average life expectancy. That's only 11 years. I see my parents a couple times a year, at minimum once a year. Once a year would mean I only see her 11 more times. You've really got to look at what matters to you in life and be intentional. If your meaning is derived from your personal relationships, make sure that you are seeing the folks that you love on a regular basis, because time is not guaranteed. All we have is this very moment. Make it matter. And if you found this content useful in helping you beautifully engineer your life, please subscribe. Thank you.